Hi everyone, welcome to the first episode in the Oh Captain, My Captain series. In this episode series, I will talk with Star Trek fans about the captains from Star Trek. Today we will talk about Captain Sisco with Tommy from Trek Canon. Alright guys, let me introduce you to Tommy again. You know Tommy from Trek Canon, and he's a regular. So, hi Tommy.
Hello, Orinda. How you been?
I'm fine. How are you?
I am groovy as always. Thanks for having me.
Good. Well, we're going to talk today about your favorite person in the whole Star Trek universe, I guess. It's
Yes,
Captain Sisko.
Captain Cisco. Yes.
So tell the listeners, why is Captain Sisko your favorite?
Well, Captain Cisco to me is just a great blend of what I like about a lot of the other captains, and he brings his own style, his own flavor. After a couple of seasons after he got into himself, he was just he just was the man.
I think in one way, yes, he groans in it, but also um, how more we see of him, how more he grows and is really the leader, not only the commander of the Deep Space Nine station, but also like um, the leader of the Bajorans because he's becoming an
Yeah,
emissary. But of course, we also see him as a father.
he has so much going on with him. He was one of the most complex captains, that I've ever seen written in the Star Trek canon. He has so many nuances, so many levels to him. Just like you were saying, he's so well rounded based on the situation. He's the most realistic captain of all the captains. He's so adaptive, but he still just has principles and morals and ethics that he lives by. He's so many layers. A father, a cook. He's the man.
But I think also because he is a captain commander on a space station instead of a starship, and that is not totally true because we also have, of course, the Defiant, which he is the captain of.
Hmm.
But I think he has a lot of different experience also in like diplomatic, but also like he has to run the whole station with um, every alien it's on there,
Hmm.
and of course we have the Dominion War. So he is a really an all-round captain that is very sensitive for a lot of situations.
Exactly, and he's extremely smart. A lot of people don't know how much of a hand he had in the construction of the Defiant. He had been engineering the Defiant class vessel for years. He even joined Starfleet as an engineer. So they don't focus on that a lot because he was more, like you said, an emissary, a commander of the station, and all of that. But he was at heart an engineer.
So we also see him, and I think one thing I really love about him is that uh, he has his son Jake, but also
Amen.
his best friend Rom of Nog. And if you put those two together and they are up to no good or they have their own path to walk, and he is there like not only like a mentor or a father to them, but he's also like um, somebody who is cheering for them and be proud on them in what they all both accomplished.
Exactly. I like the way that Nog's relationship with Cisco developed over the seasons. Another one of the great character developments in the Deep Space Nine saga, because just like you were saying, at first he was basically like, hey man, stay away from the Ferengi kid, and eventually he ends up, yeah, becoming a mentor, a father figure, and everything, and then eventually a commanding officer of Nog. So, yeah, I like the way that their relationship developed and how he didn't make Jake want to go into Starfleet or anything like that. He was always real open to the things that Jake wanted to do.
Yeah, what I really think what I like about Siska as well is that he was open minded to different kind of situation of things that was in front of him. And there was one episode I really, really enjoyed, and that was the episode with the Niners. And he and his team were very not even trained or whatever, went baseballing against the Vulcans.
Hmm.
And I think in that episode we see a lot of his character.
We do. Now, you know how the feud between him and that Vulcan guy got started, right?
Mm,
Okay, so a long time ago, back in Starfleet Academy, they was having a drink or whatever with each other in the bar, and they was, kind of got out of hand. And so Cisco, being a wrestler, was like, I challenge you to a wrestling match. But of course, it's a Vulcan. Vulcans are super strong. So the guy won. And ever since then, they've always been challenging each other in all different kinds of things. And this particular one was baseball. And those guys, yeah, but they're the best of frenemies. Yeah, those guys are, yeah, the episode that you mentioned, hilarious.
it is, but there are some very good episodes in Deep Space Nine,
Oh, a lot of great episodes in Deep Space Nine.
and I think Cisco is one of the center characters of them. But I mean, it was never like I said too much, or
Hmm.
it's only about him.
Hmm.
The other thing what
You
I
know, well, I was going to say the thing about him also is that it was really hard for him to just embrace being viewed as a basically as a religious god to people. A lot of people would have kind of slipped into that role and kind of eased into it with some kind of manipulative, type of intention, or it would have went to their head or something like that. But he was always, I like the way they always kept him grounded.
yeah
As far as not wanting to say, all right, okay, well, yeah, I'm gonna start, you know, um, placing my morality on, and everything on you guys and guide you that way. He always tried to stay very neutral, and that was a very strong personality trait of his. I always thought too.
And in one way, when he became the emissary, I never, well, I do now, but when I saw it the first couple of times, I didn't understand why about him and what. So, but I also think what was a pity is that when we came to the end of Deep Space Nine, is that we don't know what really happened to him. And I
Hmm.
always have wondering what happened after he finished in a way.
Man, and I've always hoped that they would continue that, or at least say something in continued series about it, or add some kind of Easter egg as to
Yeah,
some
me
type of
too.
mention of it. Hmm. Especially being such a turning figure in the Dominion War, at
Yeah.
least. I figured that they would have, you know, it would have been more lore surrounding him in later series.
Yeah, indeed. And um I can't remember in which series they are talking now about bringing him back, but I don't know. I don't know if we want to see Cisco back after so many years, and what will be the story.
Oh, look, so check this out. I've thought about this. I've thought about this. I think that if they were to bring him back, that the point of his story would then be kind of like instead of what he was doing with the Bajorans, he would now be doing it with a broken Cardassian world after most of their species was messed up by the Dominion. I think that focusing on that and the relationship now that the tables have turned as far as the Bajor being able to take over Cardassia now and enslave them, I think that that would be something interesting to watch, a little mini series, if you will.
Yeah, indeed. And like I said, there was and I remember an episode that they did bring Cisco back for a minute. And there was an episode that Jake was very old, and I don't know exactly anymore what was happening, but Jake did something, and I think it was something scientific. I can't remember what it exactly was, but there was a moment that Cisco came back and told Jake, son, I love you forever. I'm still here, and don't worry, you're gonna be okay.
Oh,
And
that episode was called The Visitor. Hmm.
and I think that was a very mighty episode because also of they brought Cisco a little bit back, but also like you could see the bond and the missing of Cisco towards Jake.
Yeah, that episode, every time I see that episode, and I have seen that episode like countless times, it's still, the ending, still to this day, brings a tear to my eyes every time. And especially, older Jake, he was played by Tony Todd, right? And Tony Todd always does his thing. And most people remember him as, in the Star Trek universe, as Worf's brother, Kern, right? But he played elder Jake Sisko, and yeah, when Sisko was bouncing through time with Jake, and appearing ever so often, yeah, that episode was just, oh, it did something to me. It hurt. It made me cry. I'm happy to admit it.
And there was one more episode I really loved, and that's also to see what kind of a father-son connection he and Jake had, and it was with that old um, old flying ship they made. I can't remember what it was, with real sails,
Ah,
light
yes,
solar sails. I really loved
yes,
that one.
a great father-son episode.
Yeah, but I do think the whole Deep Space Nine series, and if you watch or look at them as father and son, they really did a good job of writing them like that, because it's how it will be nowadays, and it will never be new or old, or it's always happen to be like how it will be in nowadays.
Yeah, Rock Lofton and Avery Brooks, the actor that plays Cisco, well, young Cisco, Jake Cisco and Ben Cisco, respectively. In real life, they had a, father and son type of bond, because they had, Jake basically grew up on the show. So they had, in real life, they had that kind of bond, and it translated so well on screen. And, the writers always had the eye and the ability to write, engaging and complex situations with them to where they could build on that and showcase that. And yeah, that was another one of the great aspects of Deep Space Nine.
I think they are also very good cast together because it was like, yeah, father and son, and that's especially with Nork as well. If you see those three together, and I remember in an interview that Avery Brooks was giving, um, I thought he would take Shirok somewhere, and he introduced Shirok as his son. And, and I really loved that, and I think I told this many times more that they really were like father and son.
Hmm. Yep.
So I think my next topic, um, Cisco being the first black captain, is also a very important one for you.
Of course.
Tell me
Of
your thoughts
course.
about that.
So, all right. Of course, we all know, everybody who's familiar with me or my channel knows that I grew up on Star Trek. And it was the original series that I grew up on. All right. Now, in the original series, of course, you had Uhura. All right. And, but because of the high speedness of my parents and the show, I was able to see the possibilities of those characters having their own show. I did see them in command positions. You know, they had admirals and commodores that were, you know, black and everything like that in the original series, but they were episodic. So when the next generation came, you know, the next person I got to see was Geordi. And you know, they didn't really do Geordi too well as far as in the you know, we was talking about in the dating department. You know, Geordi was kind of you know, Geordi was kind of awkward. You know, very very intelligent. You know, his techno babble with Data was always on point, but you know, it still wasn't in the command. He was a great engineer. You know, so when they finally came with Deep Space Nine, I was ecstatic. Now, the only disagreement that I had, the only qualm that I had whenever I used to watch, especially like the first three seasons of Deep Space Nine, was I was always like, hold up, how come he's not a captain, or at least, well, I should say, how come he's not a commodore or at least a captain in the series? Because as we know in Star Trek canon, commanders of space stations hold the rank of commodore. So to have him come in as the actual rank of commander, you know, is kind of, you know, weird for me for the first three seasons. But you know, the episode where he got his promotion, yeah, one of my favorite episodes as well. So yeah, it was very significant for me, and that was probably one of the reasons why I'm biased. But I like to say it was also because it was an outstandingly written show.
Yeah, I agree to that, and you know, I think it's more when they wrote him like that. I think it's also like um, to, of course, Star Trek always has a big plus with minority groups, and but I think letting him being a commander, commodore, or captain of the space station, I think they made a very good point, and especially to children, you can be everything what you want to be,
Hmm.
and that was a beautiful thing when there was a little interview with Whoopi Goldberg, and she told about when she was young and Star Trek was on, and she saw Uhura, and she called the whole neighborhood together and said, well, there is a black woman on TV and she's not a maid. And I was when I saw Cisco for the first time, I was thinking, yeah, it's Star Trek again takes the lead of um, things and like minority groups that can be having a great or a high position. You can be everything what you want to be. And I think they wrote Cisco so good as a leader that I think it opened a lot of children's eyes of, yeah, okay, the color of my skin doesn't matter. I can be everything what I want to be, even a president.
So, on the flip side of that, since you mentioned it, when Deep Space Nine first did come out, right, there was a whole lot of, we'll say,
Commotion.
animosity,
Mm,
right?
mm,
And the thing is that, for years, a lot of people didn't even see Deep Space Nine. And, I used to always be like, hey, man, have you ever watched, The Next Generation? I'd be like, yeah, original series. Yeah. How do you like Voyager? Oh, it's great. What about Deep Space Nine? Oh, I've never seen it. And for, yeah, years, I used to always be like, oh, man, I can't wait till people actually watch Deep Space Nine so that they can see how well of a series that it is. And it was so pleasing to me that within like the last 10 years, last 10, 15 years, that Deep Space Nine has been getting the recognition of how great of writing and acting, and that these people put into that production.
yeah, and I must confess, I was one of the fans that um, I didn't like it right away. I really had to warm up to it. I really
Hmm.
had to watch the whole series 2 or 3 times before I could say, ah, okay, yeah, now it is for me. Also because it's, and I talked with this with my friend uh, 2 episodes before this. I must say, guys, that episode still have to come online. But she is a big Trek fan as well, and we talked about Deep Space Nine, and she was saying, um, was saying a lot that was very funny. But she always said, well, um, Deep Space Nine has a very great storyline, and because of it is very different than we know, like going on a starship, go for exploring, etc., etc. Being on a space station is very different story than going out there and exploring.
Hmm.
So
Exactly.
I think that is one of the reasons a lot of people had to warm up to this series. But I do
They did
think
a very different type of exploring in Deep Space Nine. In Deep Space
yes,
Nine, there was more exploration of the condition, the human condition, or the psycho condition. How we relate and how we grow, how we deal with, traumas and friendships and enemies. That's why I think that people like, say, for instance, Gold Dukat was written so well, because people like Cisco, his, alter was written and acted so well.
yeah, they written Gold got so good that everyone hated him. Well, I did, but there was one episode, and I always also talked it with Eve about it. There was one episode that really makes me laugh, and it was that I think Kira had to escort him to wherever, and they were, I believe, they were shut down, and they crashed on a planet, and they had to work together to survive. And I think you know with what episode I'm talking about.
Hmm.
And they
Hmm.
went into a cave, and he was sitting. He sat on a like a thorn plant or whatever, like a cactus, and Kira started to laugh, and then he started to laugh, and then that was the first time we saw that they don't hate each other, but it was like, okay, uh, we are appended to each other, so we need to work to each other. So let's have a peace treating for this period of time, and let's make the best of it.
Hmm. Exactly. And that's a testament to, like, for instance, take for instance, Captain Picard and Riker's relationship. If you go through all of the whole seasons of their relationship, I could count maybe two times where they were actually at odds with something with each other. Okay, like an order Picard gave or an action that Riker did. It was very rare that that happened. With Spock and Kirk, it was very rare that that happened. But when you think about the complexities of, say, Cisco and Kira, you know, from season one, there was always um, tension between them, but they both had ideals and ethics and morals that most of the time aligned, you know, and the writers did a great job at saying, okay, well, we're going to ride this line so that we can explore these issues, but we may even push the boundaries a bit, but we will still stay true to Star Trek. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Um, let's talk a little bit of Cisco being a single dad, because normally you see families or like Dr. Crusher and Wesley Crusher, like mom and son, but we never saw a single dad, and Cisco was the first single dad we saw.
See, okay, here we go. Orinda, all right. So this is from my perspective. Now, from my perspective, that was another great important thing because black fathers aren't seen, in other communities as even existing. We'll put it that way. They have a stereotype that kind of goes along, with them. That's unfortunate and not true to be exact. But um, when people were exposed to Deep Space Nine, they got another view of that. They got the true view of what it actually is in our community, as far as single dads go, and as far as dads go. Period. As far as what instead of what's shown in like on the news and the media and all that crazy stuff. So when I seen their relationship, how they grew, how he treated them, how he mentored them, how he disciplined them and tried to keep and did everything he could to keep them out of trouble. You know what I mean? Cisco also was never the type to be just going off, having romances every other week. He was a single father. That was his mission. Whether it was Starfleet, Bajor, or his family, that was what it was.
Yeah, and there was one episode, and that was that Nog was coming for a holiday back on the station, and he paired Nog and Jake up to have one room, and Jake is very slubby, and Nog was very tidy, and when he put those two together, oh my god, I laughed my ass off. And, this was so typical Cisco. As a father, but also as a, mentor, commander. And I was thinking, dude, you're doing a good job.
Oh, and you know what was weird about that? Because I was always expecting Nog the Ferengi, and I don't know why. Because they would have to be so organized to remember what they need to sell, what's valuable, stuff like that. I would for some reason I always expected Nog to be the messy one, and Jake,
No.
to totally opposite. Oh, and Nog used to get on him. Oh, hilarious.
No, I think they did that with Nog because Nog wanted to be the best because he wanted to show everyone Ferengis can be loyal, and Ferengi only, it's not only about Latinum or the Ferengi rules, but I think he was that tidy not only because he was a cadet on the Starfleet Academy, but also like he wanted to have a good present for everyone to only to acknowledge and to show them we can be different.
Hmm. Exactly. And that was, and I know we're talking about Cisco, but when we go to Nog, think of that character development for him.
I will
Some,
come back up on Nog as well in an
uh-oh,
episode.
okay. Then, because I start.
Yeah, I know.
But yes, Cisco, yeah, him being a mentor to Nog, him being a mentor and a father to Jake, and always trying to be compassionate when it came to Jake and his mother, especially when he met the Jennifer from the alternate universe. You could still see that even in Cisco, he felt, when he seen her, he was like, ah, man, I still love this woman, you know. And to me, that was, always something great about his character, his loyalty as well.
Well, I do think that Cisco was in a one way also a kind of father for Nog. And I remember that episode that Nog was trying to convince Cisco to write him a recommendation letter for Starfleet Academy. And I also remember that he was testing Nog of this all. And but when Nog came back and I think that was that episode when Nog was injured and had PTSD, and that was also the episodes with that Nog went to Vic Fortain for company, but also for advice and conversation. I
Hmm.
remember that moment that Benjamin Sisco was so proud of Nog that he was the first Ferengi in Starfleet, and that he held up his bargain, and he could be more proud of Nog than he would be proud of Jake.
Okay, so how can I keep this off now? All right, just like this. So in that episode, right now, it was a few things that happened that Cisco did, and it was so his character to me. Now, remember at the beginning of our chat, I said that he's adaptive and he likes to expand his horizons. Now, since Deep Space Nine is a show about exploring the condition, right? You have a person, which is Cisco, who had a prejudice of Ferengi, or especially namely Nog, because he didn't sing Nog. Matter of fact, his first interaction with Nog wasn't a good one. So he went from that to even considering, because he could have just told Nog, nah, man, I'm not recommending you. No, to not only considering it, but testing to see if he was wrong and if Nog would prove him wrong, to whereas he would be able to say, all right, yeah, go right ahead. You got my recommendation. So, and that was and a lot coming from him because again, he don't recommend people for, that, let's think about his recommendation, which is Nog, and Captain Picard's recommendation, which was Wesley. Look, it's two totally different calibers of people here. Let me stop messing with Wesley. Hello?
Yes.
Like, why are you talking about Wesley?
Then I ever told you that Wesley was my very first crush ever.
Him in
And
that
so,
rainbow outfit.
well, that was the 90s, dude.
They had him in a rainbow cadet outfit. Come on now. Mm,
So,
mm.
let's go back to Benjamin Sisco. I think that's the same subject that we were talking about Wesley Crusher.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay, okay.
So, the next thing I want to talk about is Benjamin Sisco singing jazz. And oh man,
Oh
what
yeah.
a voice he has.
Oh yeah, the nice baritone.
Yeah, but also if you ever have, I I can't remember if this is in the documentary of the 25th of What We Left Behind from DS9, or it was the Captain's documentary. I can't remember in which one. We were in his house, and he was behind the piano, and
Mhm.
he was actually doing jazz, etc. And I was thinking, oh wow, so what he was doing in Deep Space Nine, that is just what he's doing in daily life.
Oh yeah, Avery Brooks is a very accomplished jazz musician. I believe he's actually even I believe he's actually even taught jazz.
Mm,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
he has done many of things prior to his role as Captain Cisco. Hawk and what was that show? Spencer for Hire. Yeah, he's been a professor I think now, but he's that's the man. He's actually even written. I know he's written one of my other favorite Deep Space Nine episodes, the one where he's Benny and he goes back in time.
Mm.
Yeah, I believe he wrote that one, and that his acting in that one was impeccable. I think he either wrote it or directed it. It was one of those, but I believe it was directed. But yeah, that is Far Beyond the Stars. I believe it was that part one and two. Yeah, that was that outstanding Deep Space Nine writing, and that was that outstanding Avery Brooks contribution to the show.
Yeah, and I remember that there were two things what I want to talk about was that when they did those episodes like with Vic Fortain and that he was that they were going to the club there and he was even performing himself. Um, I must say when they did that, he was a little bit of maybe stressed. I don't know what it was, but it was not the Avery Brooks I saw when they were at his home and behind the piano. And it was good to see that he did some singing and jazz in Deep Space Nine because normally we don't see that much of the captain relaxing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was able to do that. First of all, his singing voice, the best is yet to come. Oh, okay. I just had to say that because I love that song. Every time somebody mentions it, it pops in my head. And now, thanks to you, it's going to be there all day. So, yes, I love it when he's able to put his singing or his cooking, because he's also an accomplished chef. Whenever they're able to expand, like I said, on the little nuances that he has that makes him more three-dimensional.
Now we're talking about he being a good chef. Let's talk about the bond between him and his father because his father has a restaurant, of course, and
Hmm.
he cook like we nowadays. And what I really, really, really love about that is that Cisco was really like his father in that way.
Hmm.
And I remember that I think the bond between him and his father makes him the father he is to Jake.
Hmm. And look at that. It's generational, outstanding dadness. Since talking about where you're from, you're from New Orleans, right? Have you ever
Yeah.
been to New Orleans?
I have never been to New Orleans, but it's still my bucket list. Also because I love jazz. So, yeah, it's still my bucket list.
Okay. So I have been in New Orleans, and it will always have that jazz soul.
Mm.
Okay. Now, that being said, since it's New Orleans, we got to talk about, because his middle name is Lafayette. If we had just been like, yo, his name is Benjamin Lafayette Sisco, people would be like, where did Lafayette come from? Because he's from New Orleans. All right. Now, he learned how to cook from his dad, which I just want to say, I would love to go to his restaurant one day and just have a big old bowl of gumbo. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. That's on my bucket list. I wish it was something that could actually happen, but in my mental bucket list, I want a bowl of gumbo from Cisco's. Yes, I do.
Did you know that there is a restaurant in France? I believe it is even in Paris. That called Cisco's, and they are serving gumbos like that.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. So that's my bucket list. Now we both have yours is New Orleans, mine is Cisco's. Yes, and I will take a picture of it and send it to you. Hmm.
Good. Yeah. Well, I think also that when you have those three generations together, it is not like just a family meeting. It's just like super family meeting. Like
Hmm.
of course food, good drink, good stories, and yeah, I think that was the nice part to see them together.
Exactly. I wish they would have put his half brother and his two half brothers and his half sister in the actual series. I know they've mentioned them a few times, but they've never shown that they've never came actually onto camera. So because of that whole family thing. That's usually because of that. I was always expecting or hoping one day that they'll have the whole Cisco clan together, for
Hmm.
an actual thing that the rest at Cisco's at the restaurant. That would have always been something cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, very cool. And in the fact that his dad don't cook with replicators. It is all. And
Mm-hmm.
I always say if you cook like that, it's like food for your soul.
Mm-hmm.
And I have experienced that also with my traditional Asian side. So it was very familiar for me to see him and them cook like that, and it's always bring me the feeling of true family.
That's what cooking does. It brings everybody together as family. That's what it does.
Yeah, that's indeed. I really loved it always, and that's there's a little bit side of the side note page, guys. Um, my fiance is on the road now. He's staying 5 days on the road, and then in the weekend he's coming back. So I have to, after 14 years, I have to cook properly for myself, and that is so weird. I really, I notice, okay, I like to have quick and easy, but sometimes I really have to push myself. Okay, you have to eat properly, just like you normal do. But for example, make for 2 days and that's it, instead of just a small portion. And normally it works, but it's been 14 years ago that I did that for last time, and I'd rather cook for someone else too than only for myself, because for myself I wouldn't cook that um, large in the way of what I normally do for when I cook for somebody else. And it's like I also have what if you are preparing food, it is a family thing, and food and drink it brings family and people together. And yeah,
I,
that's what I'm missing now.
I sympathize and I feel for you, and hopefully it's just a short time, but just reintroduce yourself to the proper use of leftovers. I'm telling you, it's a very good thing.
Oh god.
So I gotta ask you, so what do you think about Cisco and Dak's relationship?
Oh, I think in one way it's special because we never, at that point, we never have seen the thrill this close and this this unconscious in a series. And I think the bond between Dax and Cisco was in that way very nice to see how close they are, and even for that CNS ray, yes, they know Cisco in a way because of course and of course, but I do think it's more also like it's I think in a one way it's weird because in one way it's still his old friend, but then the other side it's a completely different host.
Mhm.
What I do must say, I love Tatsuya Dax because she is a badass, and
Oh,
she ended up with Worf. So they have to be a badass.
Oh, I was
So what
getting a little
about?
scared with Worf's selection in women, man, because I just wasn't seeing him with Troy. I was like, I don't know how that's working out.
No,
I don't know how
I
that.
thought the same. I really thought the same. I was thinking, dude, are they serious? Are they serious
Hmm.
going to date him and Troy? Nah,
Po
that's
Troy.
not going. That's not a good
Mm-mm.
idea.
Just po Troy. That's all I used to say. Poor Troy. Just mm-mm.
They didn't fit together. It was not. And maybe they wanted to do that because the writers maybe wanted to show us a little bit of Worf's human side. Maybe that's the way they pair him up with Troy. I don't know.
Oh yeah, because it couldn't be Crusher. Yeah, that would have been even more unbelievable. Yeah, I got you.
It was
I got
really
you.
that was exactly the weird couple like Chakotay and Seven of Nine.
Oh my goodness. No,
Oh
mm-mm.
my goodness.
No.
Oh no. Sorry guys. I am not a fan of Chakotay and Seven of Nine. Sorry.
No. It would have been more believable with Kim, but Chakotay, no.
Yeah,
No.
but also like more like, and I understand Kate Mulgrew up that at that point because she said, I don't want to have that um, romantic relationship with my first officer because that's gonna be weird. Although it was nice to see them together in a way like that.
Do you know who I always thought Chakotay would get with? I know it's a little subject, but I always thought he would get with Balana. Always thought that they would end up
Ah,
together.
yeah, in a way, yes. And I think they have some moments that they were very flirty with each other.
Yeah, I think so. Like in the first like season, first two seasons, and then they just I think tried to explore him and Captain Janeway, and then she just was like, no.
Well, I do think when Paris and Balana got together, in one way it was very funny and real in the way because Paris was the ladies' man and
Mhm.
she was well half Klingon and will get right to the point and will break your arm if she needs to. Well, when she lost her temper. So yeah, in a one way, they yeah, opposites attract. They say
And
so.
wouldn't put up with any of his crap at all. Wouldn't put up with any of his crap at all.
Nope.
None of
And
his
that was,
shenanigans.
I think that was the beautiful thing when Balana became pregnant, and how a change Paris went through, and at the point that the baby become born, he had to go to the sit on the to the helm. I thought it was with the Borg, right?
Hmm.
That
Yep, he
episode,
was
two
at the
part
helm when
episode,
the baby was
yeah.
born.
And
And
yeah, but yeah, I think they were better suited in a way. So, now we're talking about romantic couples. Let's talk about Cisco and Cassidy Yates.
Cassidy Yates. Look, look. Okay, 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 okay. First of all, I love their relationship. I love their courtship. I love how sometimes she'll play hard to get and coy. I love how sometimes he would play hard to get and coy. All right. I love that even though she broke the rules, he honored her one decision to have broke the rules in the first place, but still had her back after she while she was in prison and got when she got out of prison, like nothing happened. She came right back into the flow of it. I love the way that her and Jake's relationship developed. All right.
Yeah.
I love the contributions to the show and to the group of friends that he had and that we had grown with, and her relationship with Kira and overall Bajor went, and how they ended up seeing her and all of that. Now, that being said, as a okay, so normally if I was to go downstairs and turn on the TV, right, no matter what I watch, whether it's a commercial, whatever, it's gonna have this. And I don't know, maybe it's me being paranoid in my vision and whatever, but it will be a black dude with a non-black spouse or non-black interest or a non-black girlfriend or something like that. All right. Or there would be in a family where it's interracial. Okay. Now, nothing
Mm-hmm.
wrong with that. But to see a family like that, right, to whereas, oh, this family mimics the family that I see around me. Okay. And for my friends to see that, that was really cool that they wrote her in the way she did and how she was still the way she still loved him and the way he still loved her, no matter what happened that was going on around him.
Mm-hmm.
And even when it went going against the prophets, he said, "Nah, nope, man, me and her still gonna do this."
Yeah.
Hmm.
Because that was one thing also I think in the series is that and that's what I liked about him too, is that no matter what, he will go his own way.
Hmm.
And when he went away as emissary and Cassidy was taking care of Jake as really like a mother, I think he's really lucky to have her.
Not only Jake, but the baby that he left her with, that wasn't born yet because she was pregnant when he went gallivanting into the prophecy but wormhole.
Hmm.
let me get off Cisco on that. But yeah,
Um,
yeah, she was really cool. And yeah, she had the permanent house right there. She would always be taken care of by the people at Bajor. So yeah, she was set. She just didn't have Cisco for a while, maybe.
so let's talk about Cisco. I call it the DS9 family, but you know, in one way they are, and I think Cisco was treating them also like family. Like Kira and, well, the normal characters we know. And
Hmm.
oh yeah, that was the thing I still want to talk about was there was those 2 episodes of they going back to Earth in like the 50s. And there was still that racial issue. And there was, I think, in the documentary of Deep Space Nine, and Nana was talking about that. Brooke Avery was so into that role and character that he couldn't snap out.
Hmm.
And I think that episode was a great episode because, yeah, it's just a part of her history, but also still uh, black people and minority society is still have to deal with this.
But we have optimism because of things like Star Trek.
Yeah, and I mean, like, when we saw that episode, um, I think, what do you think of Avery Brooks' performance?
Avery Brooks always brings it. Sometimes, okay, I always used to make this one joke about Avery Brooks, right? I don't know. Okay, when I mention this, I don't know if you've noticed it, but if you haven't, you will never unnotice it. Avery Brooks as an actor, right? Whenever he's playing Cisco, whenever he's talking to somebody or he can get uncomfortably close to them, real like just
Yeah,
real close.
yeah, I noticed. I know what you mean.
Oh yeah, he'll step up on you. But I love the range that Avery Brooks brung to the character. You know, he brung the humor, the wit. He brung the intensity, especially well, we all familiar with when Captain Cisco loses temper. All right. Um, he brung the intensity. He brung the ferocity. Worf didn't think he was intimidating for nothing. He was, but again, he was loving. He was kind. He was loyal. He was honorable. At 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 most of the time. Most of the time, he was honorable. Yeah, we'll say most of it. Yeah, most of the time he was honorable. It was 2 or 3 times he wasn't too honorable, but you know, I understand the reasons.
So, what do you think of that the writers make him a emissary for the Bajorans?
I think that was an interesting choice. One, because they never, before Deep Space Nine, they never really touched on religion or spirituality in Star Trek, especially as a main theme. Now, one could question if they did a good job with the exploration of that, but that they did it at all was really cool and a testament to the forward thinking that Star Trek wanted to that they had and that they wanted people to explore. So writing him as a central figure in a culture who we already know through canon is religious. All right, they so much so religious that they switched their their surname and everything like that to be their first name to address them by. All right, that they had a caste system. So to be able to explore what that society would look like as they rebuild and refine them, rediscover themselves. All right, and we see that through Cisco's eyes as the emissary was really cool to do.
Okay, and what do you think of Cisco being the first commander of Deep Space Nine and also the captain of the Defiant?
Okay, so yeah, we know we have to go explore space because One, we got to join wormhole. We want to know what's over there. Cool. All right, that's fine. Two, we need people who are familiar, who are accustomed to Star Trek being an actual trek, which is to go around looking for things. All right, fine. So we'll use the Defiant. Now, how can I talk about the Defiant without getting giddy? So the Defiant. All right. If you were to say, Tommy, what is your favorite starship ever in all of Star Trek? It would be the USS Defiant. All right. NX 74205. I mean, NCC 74205.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did I just correct myself? I did not. It's NX. Now, that being said, that being said, and when I say he, Cisco, the dude that I said was the engineer that got into Starfleet as an engineer, right? That was at Wolf 359, so he had firsthand experience at fighting this most ferocious and most deadly enemy of Starfleet. Went back and finished making the most bad ship that you can ever put to Star Trek flying around this. The only battleship, the only prototype, the only ship with a Romulan cloaking device, the USS Defiant, or Captain Cisco's Pimpan. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I love him and that ship. I love whenever he commands that ship. The
Yeah,
only
me
other,
too.
it's beautiful, beautiful ship.
So do you think there is a difference between that Cisco if he's the commander of the Deep Space Nine or when he is commanding the Defiant?
I really don't think there's much of a difference. If I've seen where you roll up on the station itself, and he's been, hey, I'm Cisco, this Starfleet, we nice people, but don't have me destroy you because I will. I got a whole lot of photon torpedoes and stuff that I have on this station, and he pretty much the same way on his Defiant. One could argue he's probably quicker to do that on the Defiant,
Mm,
but yeah, I think that he sees the Defiant for what it is, which is a battleship, and
yeah,
he uses it for exploration on the side.
yeah, I think so too. Yeah, it was really what I always loved about the Defiant was it was that tiny and it could be everywhere and it's also
Hmm.
strong.
Hmm.
So yeah, it was really very nice to see how he commanded the Defiant, and that
Yes,
he wouldn't stay on his post on Deep Space Nine when there was the battle.
it's only one other person in Star Trek that I think is deadlier with the Defiant than Cisco is, and that's Jadzia. That's if
Mm.
that's the only other person that I know of in Star Trek that is deadlier with the Defiant than
Yeah,
Cisco.
but she has that much more experience, Tommy. How old is she? And I think that he is only trusting that Shia to command the Defiant and nobody else.
Hmm. That's it. That's it. He knew it's coming back with no. He knew it's coming back. Hmm.
So there is one
Yeah.
more thing. Um,
Hmm.
is there something you like to add on the character of Cisco?
Well, like I said, his temperament, his ability, and his ability to adapt. He will break the rules if it not loopholes. He will just straight break rules if he thinks the overall mission or the overall goal, you know, is more important. So, um, yeah, he's a great guy.
Okay. Well, thank you, Tommy, for this amazing and inspiring conversation about Benjamin Sisco.
My
And
man Cisco.
I think I did make you have fun with it. So I
As
knew right away.
always.
I knew right away that I had to ask you for it because you always mention it about Cisco. So,
Mhm.
well, thank you so much, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you, as always, and always a pleasure and fun.
Dear listeners, thank you for listening and join me next time for a new extra episode in the Star Trek series of Orinda Talks. You can listen, subscribe, and comment to Orinda Talks on the YouTube channel or join the Facebook group. I also like to tell you about my two other podcasts called Ghost Talking Trek and Orinda Book Club, Smooth Jazz, Tea, and Books. Ghost Talking Trek. Together with Amanda Hopper, I recap every 2 weeks an episode of Star Trek starting with TNG. All the episodes will be recapping of chronically following. Ghost Talking Trek is also to listen, follow and subscribe on Anchor, Google Podcast, Spotify, Amazon Music, or on your favorite podcast app. We also have a Facebook group and a YouTube channel. Every 10th episode will be a video episode and live streaming so you guys can talk live with us and see us when we talk about the episode. Orinda's Book Club, Smooth Jazz, Tea and Books is a podcast that will discuss books of all genres, except for thrillers and horror. I don't like to read those. My perfect picture while reading a book is in front of a fireplace, loads of tea and smooth jazz in the background. If you like to discuss with me or us the books we are reading, you can do that on the Facebook group or the YouTube channel. I also like to organize live readings and live book discussions events. So join me, read with me, and discuss with me the books we are reading. I will see you next time.